Um, 900 kind of has my interest. I think it just rejected the prior distribution where shorts were present last night. So we'll kind of see what it turns into from here.
Mm-hmm. That's close. Kill the algo trades. Oh, man.
What are you looking for, Is?
The move kind of already have happened in my mind.
I agree.
I mean, the bad thing about it is like say for instance, if you got the open, right? You would have already made like what over 200 points right now. And with 3 MNQ cons off that rip, I just made 1,051. So, it's kind of like done now, Like for me, I would be done, because that's just one account. That's not the rest of them. So it makes it really hard for me to say, what I would necessarily want to go after next. Really, I guess let's see. Here on the 10-minute, we're at the 200 EMA. We're at a 4-hour support resistance line. So really, it's a real question of what do we do here? We made up some of the sell from the overnight, but can we get into that gap and continue over and hold the 200? So really, that would be my next approach to the market right now, is to see what does the candle formation do? Are we gonna maintain this? Because that's a strong 10-minute candle. Obviously there's a lot of volume on that. We got about 35,000 orders on the NASDAQ chain for that. So I'd really like to see if we're going to continue strength and push back up. If the narrative in the market with the war, crude oil, things like that, is if that's going to give the market steam to continue up to the upside. So really with, the big push that we have now, I would be more precautious, especially if you haven't taken a trade yet and you missed it. You really got to see what the trend is going to do, if it's going to hold up here, or if we're going to reject and keep pushing down. Because this could just be a pullback, a relief rally. It's a good spot to kind of reject. They've attempted to fill that gap, and if they can't fill that gap, then there's nowhere else to go but down. What do you think, Coach?
Yeah, it's always super interesting when you get that type of open, because like what I see potentially, like on if you look at a 3 to 5 minute bars, like you have a two-legged move potentially producing to the upside. But then if you take that upside long, you have to really quantify like the downside risk, just because of how wide that opening range is. And then the fact that it did kind of hit that overnight congestion, and this isn't a rejection yet, but it's definitely setting up to be one. It's a super interesting place to open up, melt up to, and then from a technical perspective, it is doing exactly what it should, and it's either going to be, you have a nice little inside range setting up, so it's either going to be inside continuation to the upside to the gap, or it's going to be some reversion down back to where we're going. So interesting area. Kind of went back to a median where it should be. It's kind of anybody's game here.
Definitely. It's an interesting area. I've got my eyes. I've got Dixie up. I don't normally look at Dixie all the time, but for the overnight and today, I've been keeping an eagle's eye on Dixie, because the dollar was like ripping in the overnight while the market was selling off. And now Dixie's actually selling down. It's at an area of support at 98.39. So I'm really interested to see what it's going to do at this level here. It's made a few attempts to try to break a little lower, but it's been holding this for the last 20 minutes or so. Yeah. We attempted this level previously at about an hour and 20 minutes ago. So, you know, be interesting to see, can they hold the dollar here, or are they going to sell the dollar and move it over to, other assets that are a little bit more risk on for them? I did notice that the dollar on the 5 looks like it has a double, or on the 10-minute looks like a double top. So there's like an M forming. So that would give the market, confidence for upside. I'm getting buy signals on the SPY right now, as a matter of fact. FOMO got general. Yeah, get it, Ja. Definitely. Price action is definitely fire today. SPY is now live across. Oh, perfect. It's 15 minutes. I think General is trying to short this market.
I mean, it makes sense. This is tough because you have, the trend. The trend is your friend, or at least you try to make it be your friend, and you're caught between two different trends right now. You have the wider bear trend that definitely sold off, and it's tough for people to get a grasp of like market dynamics. And what I mean by that is it's kind of, odd to say, but the market's purpose is to kind of obliterate shorts and kind of use it, for fuel to the upside. And I think if you look at the market holistically, there's no doubt about that if you just look at a larger time frame chart. So it's these days they love to trap as many people as possible, and anybody from the weekend that was short option perspective, unless they literally sold right at open, they're feeling that pain now, and we're kind of at the inflection point, so we'll see where it goes. I think if we do continue up, I have three areas of point of control. It seems a little far, but 24,960 is my upside target. So 100 points from here if we do show continuation and really produce like a wider two-legged move to the upside. If not, I see some chop here, which would make sense, or you get the reversion back down. But yeah, this is market dynamics 101. You have all of these crazy headlines, and you expect short continuation to the downside, and a lot of people get obliterated on these type of days.
Yep.
Amaro, that's the exact thing I was talking about. You assume it's going to be, a crazy clear down day, and there's some data to back it. 100% of the time, anytime there's war news, you have like very, very short term bear reactions, but every single time, 6 weeks later, the market's green. So that's always interesting to think about. If you can handle the position sizing into these type of like macro events, long term, you're always going to be rewarded for it.
We have the
Yeah, no, they're always like weekend news drops. And yeah, Mauro, if I think I talked about this in my last live, like the Nvidia earnings, my expectation was to like get out of this range, and earnings were good. The reaction is the reaction, and it's, it's purposeful to go from one range to the other. You have that accumulation phase back into a distribution or expansion model. Um, you just went from chop to chop. That's exactly um, the uncertainty that this market is right now. And I think what would be awesome today is to get back to 25K. If we are to take like a high probability short, it's going to be in that range. 25 to 960.
I agree with you. I'd wait for 25K. Yeah, you're right. And it'll be impossible to have a range because it's so big.
Yeah, going long right now, there's so much downside risk.
Gold selling a little here in the open. Let's take a look at crude oil. Crude oil's kind of selling right now too. Look a little weak. What's Bitcoin doing? Bitcoin's still ripping, pushing 67,000. Damn. Let's go. Still have PTSD from Friday. Shh, tell me about it. Friday was rough, bro. It's like the dollar's trying to hold right now, holding at 98, 388. It still looks like a big old M to me. So there's an Iranian nuclear site that's supposed to be being targeted right now. So we're attacking it. Got ISM manufacturing coming out in about 7 minutes as well. We do have some news, market news that's going to be dropping here.
That is a good mention. I forgot all about that.
Oh yeah, he sure did learn from that. They've got him coached real well now. Or they were freaking out that they weren't able to resolve it in the weekend. Ah, it's a sad thing though. We already had our first mass shooting in Austin. That is horrible. It was so sad. My wife and I actually had plans to go to Austin this coming weekend with some friends, and we're not going to go down there anymore. Yeah, there was another in Ohio. We didn't hear about that. You know what they said? They say that there's like 120,000 sleeper cells in the U.S. You're going there late April. Hopefully things will be done by then, or hopefully things will be all right. That was fast though. I didn't think that we would see something like that quick. That's really scary. Makes you wonder. S&P PMI manufacturing pace of growth weakest in 7 months. That just goes back to that narrative though, that they want to keep employment down, and they've got to use all those tools to tweak it. There was a friendly fire incident over in Kuwait. I hope not, man. I hope he's not a terrorist cell, because that's really scary if we're going to start seeing that kind of stuff. U.S. couple of U.S. jets actually shot down, and everyone survived. Oh wow, wow. Still holding the 200 here on the 10. One a.m. Wow, that's horrible. Looking at this pullback now, they're fighting to hold that 200.
Yeah, it makes sense. You're not really seeing a big follow through though. I have two key areas at 814 and then 791. I mean, as long as that holds support, you almost assume upside, and you're kind of just pent between the overnight sell area and kind of a retest to that open as well. Right there at 815 would be last night's. You had that sell off and kind of the high bar of that interaction. So you were kind of trapped between two.
Yeah, the Russell is trying to hold as well, trying to push up, trying to push to, I guess, retest those intraday highs. Intraday highs on the Russell is at 2006.22. If you guys are trading the Russell, so small caps looking fairly strong this morning.